Hello, Dental A Team listeners. This is Kiera Dent, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for being part of my Dental A Team family. I seriously love doing this podcast. I thought I was going to hate it, and I love it. I love it so much because I get to connect with you. I get to hear how this podcast is helping you and your practice be better. So if you have loved this podcast and you are willing to share, I would greatly appreciate if you'll share with your friends, if you'll leave us a review, if you'll give us 5 stars, anything you can do. Just like you guys grow your practices, we're trying to grow this podcast to positively impact the world of dental. This is how we get to grow our Dental A Team family. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoy the show. Hey everyone, welcome to the Dental A Team podcast. We're your hosts, Kiera Dent
and Dr. Mark Costas.
Mark and I had this crazy idea that maybe we could combine a dentist and a team member's perspective because let's face it, dentistry can be a challenging profession with those two perspectives. And Dental A Team podcast was created.
I'm a practicing dentist, a multiple practice owner, a dental performance coach, and the founder of the Dental Success Institute.
I've been a dental assistant, treatment coordinator, scheduler, biller, office manager, current practice owner, and international dental consultant. Mark and I don't just understand you, we are you.
Our goal is to positively impact the world of dentistry by sharing our lessons learned from the road in hundreds of dental offices.
2 perspectives, 1 mission, to help dental professionals reach their full potential. Welcome to the Dental A Team podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dental A Team podcast. I'm Kiera, and I am thrilled because I'm hanging out at the University of Utah's Dental College, and it just feels fitting because I have Friend and Ryan, who are the voices in dentistry. They're the boys from Lexington, Kentucky, dental students, and I am so excited because they just picked my brain, and they're super hungry for knowledge, and they're fantastic podcasters. Friend and Ryan, how are you guys over there today?
Good. Thanks for having us, Kiera.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
And we have to make sure we stay on time with this podcast because otherwise Friend will get kicked out of dental school. So we're watching that.
Yeah, we don't want that. We don't want that. I'm done pushing buttons. Literally.
You dental students know what that's like. If you skip too many classes, they boot you out. So it's a little wild. But Friend, thanks for making time. Mm-hmm. You guys, let's just do a quick intro again. Friend, tell us a little bit about who you are. You guys have your own podcast. So just so our listeners can get to know you. And then Ryan, you're new to the show, so we'll intro you as well. So Friend, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm a D3 at UK, University of Kentucky Dental School. The state's unique because we've got 2 in Louisville and Kentucky, so don't get it confused. Go Big Blue, go Cats. But yeah, I'm a D3. I would say I had a second career. This is my kind of second career, but my first one was only 3 years, so I don't know if we can call that official first career. But
I think millennials can do anything they want. So I say yes. Like, how long is a career for a millennial? I mean, let's be real. It's like 20. It's like a month if you're lucky.
Whatever feels right. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I did construction for 3 years and I'm back in school now. Love it. Dentistry has always been a passion to me because of the ability to just treat patients long term. And it kind of is a perfect marriage between clinical practice and business. So that's what got me into it. I haven't been able to let go of the torch on real estate and remodeling since getting in. And so I still do that on the side. And then the Voices, Life and Dentistry guys were so kind to pull me on here last year. And I've helped them on a number of episodes. So that's kind of how I met you, Kiera. And it's been a whirlwind and a wild ride ever since.
And I'm just going to plug right now, Friend, he really is your best friend. Like, his name, it says everything about him. He's seriously the nicest guy you guys will ever meet. If you ever go to Kentucky, Friend will connect you with anyone and everyone. He will be beyond, Friend, you seriously were one of the most generous hosts I've ever met. So you made Kentucky amazing. So yes, thank you. And then Ryan, I will. I'm coming back for the Kentucky Derby this year. I've already it's going in the calendar. Nice. I've got to be there. I want to wear the Derby hat. It's going to be so fun. I can't wait. I can't even wait. So, and then Ryan, welcome. You are friends with Friend, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, yeah, thank you. So I'm a D1 at the University of Kentucky. I'm not the typical D1 student. I'm definitely a non-traditional. I'm 32, married with 2 kids. And prior to this, I was in the kind of corporate banking, internal audit, accountant, risk, CPA kind of world, and decided to kind of turn the boat around and say, that's just not for me, and landed on dentistry. It kind of checked every box that I wanted as far as the marriage between business and serving others. And so just jumped right in. So my involvement with Friend is through our student dental business organization that we have. And prior to actually starting a real career, I did medical billing for 3 years, right outside of Lexington, actually, and did some billing for some rural health clinics and kind of learned the underground world of billing that nobody really talks about. So I definitely don't know everything because it changes every year, but it's definitely something that I think we should address.
Yeah, as soon as I found out that he had all this crazy experience, I was like, we've got to get you back on. Because here, our last one, I remember I asked you the question of what do dental students need to be learning now? And you said billing. And I said, what? And so it's something that a lot of us have no idea what goes on, or even if we should know it. Is that something that the office manager should know? Should the dentist have any idea what's going on in that area? Where's their time best spent? You name it. So,
yes.
Kiera, give us a background on you too, because I'd love to have this podcast also aired on Life in Dentistry.
Of course.
So, tell us more about yourself.
Sure, absolutely. Well, Life in Dentistry, I think I misspoke. So Life in Dentistry podcast, they're awesome. And I just love your guys' logo. It makes me giggle. So, but my background comes from, I decided, it was actually funny. I was flying today and this lady, there's some people in this world that talk to you forever on planes and don't get the subtle clues. Like I wasn't even just getting subtle clues. I was literally like full on text messaging, computer out, writing emails. And she talked to me the entire flight. And
I'm sorry.
I had to giggle, but it was really funny.
I'm one of those people.
No, friend, you were more engaging though. I don't know. I think I don't know what it was, but that was okay. And I realized this was just a moment of patience for me that I needed to accept this morning. But it was funny because she jolted me back to why I even joined dentistry. And she said, so why do you do what you do? And I said, honestly, it was because I wanted to wear scrubs. That is the honest to goodness reason, the whole reason I am even in dentistry. And so I started in high school. I did dental assisting, and then I went to treatment coordinating, scheduling, billing, office management, my own dental practices. I taught at Midwestern University's College of Dental Medicine, which is where my love for students and just wanting to really, truly impact you guys and give you every single possible nugget, because at the end of the day, my goal is to positively impact the world of dental. And I believe that inspiring and changing the future generation is what's going to impact dentistry the most. So helping you guys learn these things and being better doctors and being better bosses is going to make you have better teams. It's going to help you impact your communities greater. And so that's why I do what I do. And now we consult Mark Hostas and I with DSI, and then Kiera's Dental Consulting, and now the Dental A team. So we have about 165 offices nationwide, where we go in offices. We build systems, we create systems so you can create wealth. And I believe wealth is wealth of time, wealth of cash flow, of course, wealth of resources, and then wealth of accountable teams that make your life easier. So that's what we do. It's tons of fun. And honestly, I just freaking love the Dental A team. They're a fun group of people. And I feel it's just a way to give back to team members to become better versions of themselves.
That's awesome. And you also let dental students tag along and see what you do, right?
Anytime.
Grady was telling me that it's just legit the most amazing thing to see you work.
Oh, Grady's awesome. Yes. Anytime, guys. We'll get better at posting where I will be, because I feel like it's kind of go back in the day. Did you guys ever watch Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? Was that a thing for you guys?
Yes.
Oh.
I'm talking to a millennial. I don't know.
Okay, well, Ryan and I are going to have a moment right now. But Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego was one of the best shows, and I feel like that's my life now. So Where in the World is Kiera Dent and the Dental A team? We'll start posting it, because anytime I'm in a location you guys are at, if any dental student ever wants to tag along with me, come see us in an office. Grady will literally ask me question after question after question. I'll show him how to run reports. And I think that that's really the hands-on piece. So yes, anytime any dental student wants to join me, I will happily take you along with me.
Wonderful.
Okay. Well, let's dive into this, friend. We want to talk billing, billing is just a beast. So let's go in. You guys ask me whatever questions. I will tell you, billing was my Achilles heel. I felt like when I became an office manager, I literally didn't know what I should be doing. I didn't know how to run half the reports. I didn't even know what half the reports meant. I knew the concept and the basics of it, but heaven forbid, I was so foreign. So I will give you guys my best information. There are people way smarter than me when it comes to billing, but hey, we're going to go at this. And if there's other people that I can tag to, I will definitely reference to those, but let's start talking billing and what you guys should know, what questions you guys have, especially from a dental student's angle. I think it'll be really fun to start there.
Well, for sure. Well, let me ask the first one, because I don't think you're going to find many people with less knowledge on billing than I do, especially within a dental practice. So, I mean, for starters, where do we even begin? How many different aspects of billing are there? Is this, from the patient side, like accounts receivable? Is this with insurance? Who does it? I know that's a million questions.
Perfect.
But where do we even start?
Yep, I think that's great. So we made an online billing course, which honestly I really did make for dental students because, friend, one of your first questions you asked at the beginning of this podcast is, should dentists even really be involved in the billing as the owners? How much should we know? And I'm going to say, I don't want any doctor out there doing billing. I really don't want you guys to do it, but I also want you to know enough so you aren't shackled and handcuffed to your front office team that does this. I have seen it over and over and over again where a dentist doesn't know anything in the front office. They literally don't know how anything works. They just are like, well, money comes in. That terrifies me as a business owner. If you don't even know how the money's coming into your account, you don't feel like you're in control of going after that money or even knowing what half these reports are to know where your money is. You guys go do the dentistry, fantastic, but then you're totally reliant on somebody else and hoping and praying that they do it right and that they know what they're doing. And so that was my whole goal behind this. So let's start at the beginning. When a new patient calls in, first and foremost, we're going to get their insurance information. I strongly advise you do not have that as the leading factor in your practice. I think insurance should be viewed as a benefit. So great. We're going to use that $1,000 coupon that your insurance is so gracious to give every single person, because obviously every person in this world is exactly the same. So everyone should follow the same insurance plan. It makes no sense. Insurance makes zero sense to me, but it's fine. We'll just go off of that with that $1,000 coupon or whatever they choose to give. So when you call in, friend, so the process, and I'll just kind of walk you guys through the flow chart of the billing. Patient calls in. You guys are going to get that information over the phone. We're going to check to see if you are actually active on that insurance plan. And Ryan, you've done medical billing, so please chime in anytime, add your 2 cents on this as well. I'll kind of go through the flow chart, but please interject at any moment. I would love to hear your side of it because I've never done the medical billing side, and I know that's a pretty powerful piece on dental right now. It's a hot topic. So
sounds great.
So you guys call in, we get the insurance information, we check to make sure you're active and you're actually on a plan. And the way I describe this to a lot of offices is we hear and we're super knowledgeable of knowing, hey, dental insurance is okay, there's Delta Dental, there's Emeritus, there's United Concordia, Blue Cross Blue Shield. There are so many insurance plans out there. And as a provider, you can choose to be credentialed, which means you're in network. And if you're in network, that pretty much means you got to play by the rules that office gives you. Some people will say,
pause.
Go ahead.
How long does it take to get credentialed?
Dude,
what does that mean?
That's a gross.
Huge.
That's gross thing. I used to do credentialing, and I was like, forget it. Never again will I do credentialing. So it's cool.
It takes time, and it's something we have to apply for. It doesn't just come with our license.
Correct. So, but it's kind of nice because you get to determine which insurance company you want to be a part of and be participating with. The reason why people go in network is because that's kind of your. And gosh, if I hear this one more time from somebody, I'm going to poke my eyes out. But they say it's your marketing money, right? You can spend marketing and get patients out there, or you can go in network. Now, if you're going in network, I would strongly advise, quick tip for you guys who are new to the dental world, or if you're choosing to rebrand, be smart with the name you name your dental practice, because people go to insurance lists. What is the first name that comes up? Obviously, A's are top of the alphabet. So we're going to want to have a name that's in A, B, or C zone if you can name your dental practice accordingly. That's just going to help you pull up higher in the search results when people are scrolling, because what they'll do, they go to their insurance list, they're going to look at their providers, and then they go to Google to check your reviews. That's literally how the process will work. So quick tip, name it something that pulls up. I mean, you could do AAA dental, genius. You're at the top of the list. So brilliant. But I'm just kidding. Don't do that. But name it something that will pull up on the top of that list. And so then what happens is when you guys are credentialing, we went in network when I first started my practice. We went in network with 14 different PPO insurances. I chose not to do HMO. HMO is a whole different story. So if you want to do Medicaid, that's a totally different ballgame than PPO. I'll primarily focus on PPO today, just for time and
sake.
Exactly.
Can you tell them what PPO is?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
What does PPO stand for versus HMO?
Gosh, so PPO is your Ryan, I'm having a blank. So PPO is a preferred provider organization, meaning you are a preferred provider within that network of dental practices. So PPO is pretty much your standard fees that are going to come through. So in a dental practice, you're going to have your office fee. So for example, let's say a crown, you charge $1,000. Well, then a PPO, so you are choosing to be in network with Delta Dental. That means you follow their fee schedule, which breaks that down to say they only allow $650 for a crown. So no matter how much you want to charge $1,000, if me as a patient comes in with Delta Dental and they say that the allowed fee for a crown is $650, that's all you'll ever get paid. So you can't
even charge the patient for the extra, right?
Not unless there's some ways around it. Like Ben Tuaney told me you can do like a materials fee, so you can add an additional fee to it, or so different things. Okay. But for ease sake today, and Ryan, I'd love your input on this. For ease sake is if they say it's $650, it's $650 unless you do a bunch of add-ons. There are some other companies that will do add-ons. Generally speaking, across the nation in dental practices, I see that it's crummy and it's a rough day, but you just go with that fee schedule. So you know it's that $650. Ryan, did you have any thoughts on it that you found on the medical side?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that I saw from the medical side was, and it has really to do with who's doing your coding. And, you know, coding is basically CPT. Well, when I was doing it, it was CPT 9, but now it's 10.
Right.
And they change it all the time. But basically, these are codes that you use for certain instances. Say somebody comes in for X amount of time, and it's just a normal patient visit, you would use a certain code. And then if you did a crown or a bridge or whatever it may be, there's all these codes that apply to different things when you do them. And I think one of the things that we saw people lose on the most is that people don't know the appropriate code for the appropriate treatment.
Absolutely.
And what happens is you just lose tons and tons of money. And how it actually came to be in the office that I was in, a new office manager had come in and she was just looking through the old billing. And she came back and said, "You guys miscoded this for the last 4 years." And we were like, okay. And I wasn't there at the time, but she was just like, "I want you to rerun all of these Medicare claims. And I want you to redo the billing, and I want you to have them pay." Because you can do that. You can actually go back and resubmit claims, and if you did not get paid the appropriate amount. It turned out to be like $30,000 or $40,000 that was just lost because of one little code that was misdone. And I think then I realized, like, this is a really powerful thing. Like, you can really lose a lot of money and really have no clue about what your accounts receivable are actually telling you. To like, wow, why does our 60 and 90 keep growing and growing and growing? It's like, well, maybe you're getting paid, but your 60, 90 is not even going to show you that because it's not hitting it anymore. But you were like, well, you got paid $50 instead of $100 because you miscoded.
Totally. And that miscoding is something, Ryan, that I see a lot in offices. And you guys, I'll be 100% honest. Like, as an office manager, and even today, coding wasn't my thing. I didn't go to school for coding. I guarantee you there are not a lot of people out there that went to school for coding. It's kind of like hey, let's learn from grandma on how to make the stuffing for Thanksgiving that gets passed down the line for generation after generation. And I think that that's how coding goes. Ryan, do you agree? Like, I feel that's how coding is done, at least from what I've seen in dental practice. Maybe you had it different when you did medical billing, but I feel like it's just a pass down what the other person knows or doesn't know.
I think culturally, yes, I think that is the case. I was in a kind of a third party where these offices were coming to a third party where we only did medical billing, and we handled all of the billing side of it for them. So they would come in and really what would happen is we would have these hospitals that would come in and they would have multiple practices, and they were all just in shams. And so we were the cleanup crew, and we would go in and say, well, you probably committed Medicare fraud more than we'd like to admit, but we're going to clean this up and be the cleanup crew, really. And so that was where I kind of learned it from more of a, this is absolutely how you do it versus a, let's try to figure it out. So I was kind of on the other side of the fence.
For sure. And there's companies like eAssist, or I've heard of Dental Accounts of Ease, that are just like that for dental companies. But I do know every person's not trained equally, and they do a lot of CE. There's a lot of CE out there, but it's kind of like, not all dentists are created equal. Not all billers are created equal. There is a really fantastic course that I've heard. I've never attended it myself, but I have heard Coding with Confidence is a fantastic one. And everyone really does need to have the updated codes, because codes change every single year. They come up with new codes. They get rid of old codes. And really, we do go by that. And Ryan, you're absolutely correct. A lot of things are miscoded, so you're not sending that out. you're not doing it properly, and we're not getting paid everything we could. And when you start to follow the rules, so for example, let's say a patient comes in for a comprehensive exam. Well, if you read the rules of how often you can bill out a comp exam versus just a periodic exam, you can be billing for a lot more than you are. However, with dental, I always say it's like a coupon. So they'll max out. They'll max at that $1,000 coupon, meaning that they're not going to go beyond that 1,000. Now, depending upon the states, this is where it got a little weird for me. I had no idea because I only worked in one state, so I didn't even know this was a possibility. But there are some states that when a patient maxes, so for example, friend, you come in and see me and your total for max is $1,000, right? So that means you come in, and another way to think of this, so it could be a coupon, or another visual that I think is helpful to remember is it's like a bucket of money. So friend, you got $1,000 of a bucket of money. Well, we come in and with this crown, which is super convenient, Delta Dental says they're only going to pay 50% of their allowed fee of $650. Well, fantastic. That means you, friend, will pay $325 and your insurance company will pay $325. Beautiful. Well, we just pulled out $325 from that bucket of money for that $1,000. So then we don't have $1,000 in there anymore.
$675.
Exactly. So then we're going to keep chipping away. When you come in for your cleanings, well, all my cleanings are free. Well, they're free until you max that $1,000 out, and then your cleaning's out of pocket. Because when you come in for your cleaning, say it's $150, well, that $150 comes out of that $1,000 bucket, and it just keeps chipping away down and down and down until you're zero. Now, for some states, they will allow you that once a patient has used up that whole bucket of money, that $1,000 or $2,000 or whatever the max is, at that point, you can actually flip and you no longer have to stay within the contracted fee. Meaning, friend, you come in, we use that whole $1,000. I'm in a state that allows this. You can actually go to your office fee, meaning I can start charging you $1,000 for that crown. However, that's not super common. What's more common that I see is because you're contracted, you're a PPO provider, you're required to follow that fee schedule. So I use that to my advantage. Though I tell patients like, hey, even though you're maxed on insurance, we charge $1,000 for the crown, but your insurance will only allow us to charge $650. So you're actually getting a massive savings. Let's utilize that because next year they might choose to change that fee. So I use that to my advantage when I'm presenting treatment if your state doesn't allow that. So that's a little tip for you guys to check your states to see what they allow. So back to our patient journey of...
rewind.
So they're going to call... We're out of the weeds, but that was such a good tangent because I think it helped you get some clarity. And Ryan, thank you for that. Because also I do know Medicaid is very different. Like that's a whole nother ballgame. When Ryan said like you've created Medicaid fraud or Medicare fraud, like that happens. And that's why I think I'm a little leery of HMOs. But HMO is super clear. They pay really quickly. And as long as you abide by the rules that they set for you, they do a lot more pre-auths, certain things that they need requirements for. If you follow those rules, you're totally fine on Medicaid. But they are stickier. So I've remotely worked with HMOs. Mark does HMOs like crazy. So there's just two different worlds of billing. PPO is not nearly as strict, but you can do insurance fraud even with PPO. So patient calls in, we get your insurance information. We make sure that patient's on the plan and we check to see, have you gone to another insurance or another dental office and used part of that $1,000 bucket of money this year? Yes or no? We also want to find out because insurances are super fantastic. And what they'll do is they'll actually downgrade. So let's say you're coming in for a filling. Well, not all fillings are created equal. There's composite and amalgam. Well, a lot of insurance companies I feel are like hanging out about 100 years ago and they believe that an amalgam restoration is the best restoration. I don't know why they will not like increase with the times. And they also believe that, a crown should be like $20 because that was 100 years ago. So insurance companies are super great at not advancing with dentistry and with the times. So they downgrade a lot of our procedures. So like implants, a lot of them are not covered and they'll downgrade you to a partial, which obviously a partial compared to an implant are two very different procedures, very different costs. So you've got to watch those downgrades. Downgrades will nip you every single time and they hurt. Those are painful ones to learn from. So we want to
what does that mean, downgraded? Sorry, I just don't understand
that's good. Thank you. So what that means is we will submit for an implant, but they don't accept implants. So they're going to downgrade us and pay on a partial as opposed to paying on an implant. So
they won't pay anything on the implant. They're saying, if you want any of our money, you got to do.
Nope, they will because they'll just downgrade it to a partial. So for example, we do a filling that's a composite filling. Well, we charge out. So let's say a composite's $100. But they will not pay on that. They're going to downgrade us to the amalgam fee, which is only $65. And then they're only going to pay 20 or 80%, depending upon what they pay. Usually on restorations, it's an 80-20. So they'll pay 80% of that $65. Well, we billed out for a composite, but they downgrade us to that lower fee. Therefore, we're in this downgraded zone. So when you're calling on a patient, you've got to really be good. You've got to have insurance verifiers that are super fantastic at getting that information. Are they going to downgrade? Because if they do, we've got to estimate our fees and our treatment plans based on that downgraded fee. Otherwise, our patient's going to be livid with us when they get a really high bill because insurance only paid on $65, not the $100 like we estimated them to pay. Does that make sense?
I gotcha. Yeah. Yep.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so that's going to be insurance. I know that insurances will give you a different payout depending on your demographic or where you're located, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Delta will pay different if you live in Minneapolis versus if you live in Podunk, Kentucky, or if you live in Arizona.
Correct. And also not every patient who has Delta gets paid the same. So the way I explain this to people, hopefully this isn't too deep for you guys, but I try to make it very simple. Delta is kind of like a last name. So before I got married, my last name was Staples, and there were 7 kids in my family. Well, in a family, not all 7 kids are identical. Every single one of us looks different. We have different hair color. We've got different eyes. We've got different height. We've different likes, different dislikes. That's very similar to, that's very similar to an insurance plan. So the last name can be Delta Dental for all these different patients, but then their group number and their plan and what that plan will pay for comes from the employer. So then I could have all these different plans, but they have the last name or the overarching of Delta Dental. So then we have to figure out, we can't just say like, okay, Delta Dental. So every patient who comes in with Delta Dental, they're always going to get paid this amount. There's always a downgrade on this. There's always this down the line. That's not accurate because there's different group numbers within, and that's based on what the employers are willing to pay for all their employees. So that's where it's like Delta Dental has many different children. We have to figure out what the plan is for that different child. Does that make sense?
I guess so. Yeah.
So that's why we get a full, I always say in January, most people hate working in the dental office and billing from January to June because all patients are coming in at the beginning of the year. We are re-verifying, we're getting a full benefit breakdown on every single patient, meaning we find out what are the downgrades, what are they not going to pay for, what are the things that are not that won't qualify. It doesn't mean we can't bill them. We just want to know that information. So when we present treatment, we've got all of our aces in our pocket. Then come June, most of our patients have already seen us for their 6th month at the beginning of the year. So then when they come back in June, all we're doing is we're doing a benefits check. So we're just verifying that they're still active on their insurance. There's nothing else that we missed. It's a much faster, easier, quick check. But from January to June, people are doing very intensive insurance breakdowns. And we do that just so we have better treatment planning and better information. That way people aren't getting upset with us when things get denied or not covered. You can have that conversation. And I say all insurance verification really is doing is it's managing expectations. If a patient knows they've got to pay for a filling out of pocket, sure, they're not going to be super happy about it. But the expectation is you pay for this out of pocket as opposed to, hey, your insurance is probably going to pay 80% of this and then you get a bill for a lot more. So that's all it really does is I think it helps you guys with that. So after that, patient then comes into the practice. We do treatment on them. We know we've got their insurance information. We know their full breakdown. We have that. We know that they're active. There's also like so many other pieces, like are they the subscriber? Are they the family member? So there's like all these little pieces you guys really need to check. And I say when you do insurance verification, the best thing to do in your office is just to have a standardized form. There's lots of forms out there, but that way we get the same information for every single patient. We scan it in. We can refer back to that. So that keeps things super clean, a nice system for you guys. Then when patients come in for treatment, the next piece of billing is you do the treatment. And they always say, I think the best way to avoid getting into a sticky spot is bill for the treatment that you did that day. Don't do anything else. Because I've heard of offices, this is super scary, and I didn't even know people did this because that never even crossed my mind. This is highly insurance fraud, but they will do a buildup in a crown that day, but they won't bill everything out that day because insurance won't pay for it. Or some people will max their benefits and they actually billed the next year. So things would get covered. And I was like, whoa, but you did the treatment in December. You can't bill it in January. That's 100% illegal. I actually talked to a dentist who lost his license due to that. And I was like, wow, that's a really bummer. Those things just don't do. So the treatment you did that day, bill. Even if insurance is going to deny it, that's okay. Bill the treatment that you did that day and you're never going to get in trouble. But to Ryan's point, knowing all the different codes and the different ways you can bill things out and following those rules, it is a tedious process. But I mean, shoot, for $30,000 to $40,000, I think it's worth it to make sure we're billing out what we can. Some people, like, you can bill technically an FMP, a full mouth probe. Some people won't bill that, or oral cancer screenings. You can bill those out, but some offices choose to not charge for those. We can still bill, that's okay, but they choose not to charge anything because they want their patients to get oral cancer screenings and full mouth probes and never reject those due to cost. So you are allowed to not charge up to the insurance fee schedule that they give you. It just is a matter of what your practice chooses to do or not. So then after the patient comes in, you've seen them, we bill out what we did. That's where it goes to an insurance clearinghouse. So I think that's kind of like sending a postcard through the mail. We're going to send off that insurance claim. And with those insurance claims, we need to make sure we attach all the necessary documentation. And right now that's pretty much like intraorals, a narrative as to why it needs it. Make those narratives super short. I think they only read like the first 30, 40 words. It's a very short amount. Ryan, do you know specifics from your world of how long the narratives they would actually read? It's a very short amount of words.
I mean, I know in documentation, the way that we got it is we would actually receive the dictation from the offices and we would code out codes accordingly. As far as other information outside of that, I think the only thing that we had to do was pre-op. But again, this is medical. So
correct.
Well,
it could be very different for dental from that standpoint.
And in dentistry, I've done some research on these. I know it can be different. It's definitely different per procedure. A crown, you need certain, an endo
Correct.
here, I know for sure that we have to take a PA and then there's a different narrative that's needed. Mm-hmm. Is there somewhere we can go that, like Delta, what are the biggest narratives? What are the key points we have to have for this procedure and this one and this one? Are there, where can we find the key points so that we aren't wasting our time?
Yeah.
Writing a long narrative because we don't know what they need, or worse, writing a long narrative and not getting the one thing they did need and getting kicked back.
Right.
Yeah.
So, where I've heard, and there could be other places. So if anyone listening to this knows of better places than what I know, I'd love you guys to respond. We can share this information, make everybody better. Some of the gals that I've worked with, we've compiled some common narratives that we put in there that I'm happy to share with you guys of just certain things that you're going to need for all these procedures. And that just comes from trial and error. And as crummy as that sounds, I don't know better places. I'm sure like Coding with Confidence can tell you things. We've got a form that I'm happy to share that just comes from a lot of experience and different courses people have taken. But a lot of it will be, they'll get kicked back and they'll tell me why. So then you update. And sometimes it used to be in the past that a buildup and a crown would get covered together. Now they're denying those together. And then it used to be that you'd get paid on certain dates and now they're changing it. So it's constantly an evolution and they're always changing the game because insurance, as nice as they are, don't like to pay. So I feel like they're constantly looking for ways not to pay. And they'll be like, well, you didn't send an intraoral. Like intraorals when I was assisting never existed. We never, ever, ever submitted an intraoral to get paid. And now intraoral pictures come with almost every single one of them. They want to see that. So, and it's okay if things get denied, we can always resubmit. You can resubmit, I believe, up to 3 to 4 times, and it just goes through and there's different processes. So I'll give you guys, I'm happy to share that in the notes. We can share that form with you guys. I think that will help you guys. But then once you guys submit all the necessary documentation, make that short and sweet. So like buildups, you got to know how much tooth structure is missing, why the tooth needed a crown. Was it due to a fracture? Was it due to like leaking margins? Why are we doing this crown? And if you guys will do that in your notes, write that in your first line of your notes for us or have it in set spot. That way your billers can just go pull it directly from your notes. It helps your billers get a lot more of this paid and paid faster. So then it sends off to the clearinghouse, to the claims. They review it. They say yes or no, we're going to pay it. And then your money comes back to the office. And then there's ways you need to collect from your patient. That's your patient AR or your aging report. And then your insurance AR, as Ryan alluded to before, of the 0 to 30, 30 to 60, 60 to 90, and over 90. And what that means is how long is that claim sitting there waiting to get paid versus it being paid. And this is where it comes into like, there's a lot of different ways you can take care of this. Some offices have credit cards on file, meaning insurance pays. They don't cover the whole portion. We can run your card on file and just make it so your balance is 0 and send you an electronic statement. Super fast way to keep your AR low. But that AR is really where you guys need to be running reports. And that's where I say dentists need to be the most aware. All that beginning part is super convenient for you to know. And the more you know, I think the more you can get paid and you can train your team. However, the area I think dentists really need to pay attention to and be super involved is on knowing your reports and when to run them. So I advise you guys run these reports once a month, and you're going to want to run, I'll kind of just list off a few of them, but you want to know your aging report. How much money is sitting in 0 to 30, 30 to 60, 60 to 90, and over 90? And what of that is insurance portion, meaning the insurance companies should be paying for it versus what's patient portion. Because we can go after the patient portions as long as it's not pending on insurance. And you should be collecting those copays anyway beforehand. Or are we needing to resubmit? Like, are we struggling with getting that insurance to pay? After that, that's like definitely one you guys should be running at least once a month. I prefer almost once a week, and your biller should be reporting to you what every single account's doing at least once a month. So that way, and you can have it color coordinated, like it's out to insurance, we've resubmitted, patient's not paying, they're on a payment plan. Like your billers should be able to tell you every single account what's going on, and there should be documentation to that. So that's a huge, super important one for you guys to be watching. And
so
then
who's running these?
So do you that point, is this, when you say billers, are you saying these are out offices where dentists have bought billers in-house, where they're doing the billing in-house for their practice, or it's third party?
Such a good question. I say billers, and it's a relative term. There could be a lot of different ways. It could be somebody that you have outsourced, like eAssist or Dental Accounts of Ease, similar to what Ryan did for the medical. It could be your biller in-house, meaning sometimes that's your office manager. Sometimes you have a biller. Sometimes it's the one person who does upfront everything. And other times it could just be an outsourced person who comes in like once or twice a week who does all the accounts for you. So there's I've seen it 3 different ways, but whomever your biller is that does this, that person needs to know every single one of these accounts inside and out, and they should be able to answer a question for you. You guys should also spot audit on these, meaning go pull the EOB, which is the explanation of benefits. Check and see, because just because an insurance company says to write this off or they didn't pay does not mean we write it off the account. It means that we figure out, does the patient pay it? Is that part of our contracted fee that we need to write off? And so there's a lot of pieces within that realm that you guys really need to be watching as well. That's a whole nother piece that I wanted to tie into. Once you guys get the insurance fee, like once you're credentialed, you'll get a fee schedule for every single insurance company. You want to make sure you have those fee schedules in there and then attach them to the patient. That way we're not projecting and assuming our office goals are on our office fees, which honestly Mark says feeds the ego, but you never can collect that money. So you should be going off of your fee schedule contracted rate, because you can actually collect that money. You can watch your collections a lot closer. So that's going to help you with your AR to check to see, is this true money we can collect or not? And on that AR report, there are times where you'll just have to write off bad debt. So let's say we didn't do a good job collecting. You need to have a policy in place of when to write off that bad debt, how you guys collect, how often you guys are following it. And that whole billing process of the AR needs to have really strong, strict protocols, meaning every single Friday, we want a report of what's going on with every account. We're going to review this once a month as a one-on-one meeting, and we're going to talk about all these accounts. Once we've called them 3 times, they get put on my desk, and I get to determine, are they a collections call? Are they a 50-50 call, meaning I call the patient and say, pay 50% of your bill, we'll write off the other 50%. Or is this somebody that we're going to keep calling for the next 3 months? Because once they hit a certain point, your team should then be bringing them to you guys so you guys can make a decision. Because at the end of the day, that's your money. That's what you guys need to be taking care of. So that's where I feel like that's where dentists really need to come in. And then there's so many different reports of procedures not attached to claims, meaning you guys did the work, but they just got stuck out in la la land. They never actually submitted on a claim. How many claims are pending, meaning they didn't actually make it to the insurance company. So that postcard never made it through the mail, basically. Did that actually make it? Claims pending, your insurance reports, all those reports. And in Open Dental, they make it really simple for you. It's literally in the monthly, just go down that list, run those reports. I tend not to do filters. I run it from the beginning of the year, minimum, maybe even 18 or 2 months or 2 years back, just to make sure nothing got stuck back in there. So I know this is there's so many pieces to billing, but hopefully I was able to walk you through kind of how it starts, where it ends, and where the dentist really should be attuned and in the know with your billers and how to hold them accountable. And we've created some checklists of okay, in a 30-day period, this is where you should have your billers do. These are some reports to run every single week. And even if you guys don't know them right off the bat, even just giving that to your billers and saying, hey guys, fill this spreadsheet out for me and get it back to me. We can then show you guys how to run those reports to double check your team, but at least they're submitting the information to you. So you guys are getting that. And I like it delivered every Friday. That way you guys can review it and see where you're at. So in a nutshell, that was a lot. I know you got to go to class, but are there any last questions you guys have or things you wanted to touch on before we close?
I've got 2. Ryan, what do you got?
I was just going to say, I think overall, the deeper you go out into this, the deeper it gets. And it truly is a game, and it's a game of endurance, because you have to keep plugging away and learning more and more, because you may get denied claims 5, even 6 times before you get it paid. But the money is due to you in some way, shape, or form. You just have to keep fighting for it, and don't fight for the write-off, the bad debt, unless you absolutely have to, because you also don't want to make your patients disgruntled at you.
Completely. I love that you said that because, and I'm going to start using that, Ryan. Billing really is a game of endurance. And I don't think a lot of offices even realize that they can resubmit. And also some offices, like, I'm just going to be honest, some offices get lazy and they don't want to do it because they think they've got more important things. And I just say to that, I think, yes, that's true. However, this is your paycheck. And if you don't collect the money, that is the team's paycheck that's not being paid. So where's that money going to come from if we're not doing our job as billers and collecting that money? So I love that, Ryan. And I think all billers, every office out there, realize that billing is a game of endurance. That's brilliant, Ryan. I love that.
Well, and UK is a testament to that. Dental school is dental school, and I don't often sing the praises of a dental school, but UK has been doing a great job. And they just brought in a financial gal here a few years ago that found a stack of claims that did exactly that. They were sick of it. They couldn't do it. And that lady in 3 months brought in over $2 million. Of outstanding claims.
That's insane.
So, it's crazy. So it can be a sitting gold mine right there if it's done right.
Yeah.
And I tell some offices, if you don't know, you can always call, like my team, we've coached people, we've got billers, like you can call eAssist. There's lots of different ways to do this if you don't know how to do it specifically. But I think calling in somebody who knows what they're doing, and also you guys educating yourself on like the ADA, maybe taking coding with confidence, maybe popping into our billing course, like just knowing what you're supposed to do a little bit. And like Ryan said, it really is like, I feel like it's the tip of the iceberg and it just goes deeper and deeper and deeper underneath. But the more you know, the better you can be. So friend, what are your questions?
Okay. I switch up my words. Two super quick questions.
Okay. You can't get kicked out of dental school. I'm ready.
Yeah, exactly. Run there. Bad debt. I saw that on a profit and loss statement here recently, and Ryan just talked about what exactly are we looking at when we see something called bad debt on a P&L or a KPI performance sheet?
I will talk about bad debt when it comes to your AR. I think on a P&L it's a little bit different, but on your AR, bad debt means basically we didn't do our job as a dental practice and it's gone beyond the time where we can collect. So meaning we're like a year, 2 years, we can't really submit to the insurance company. And I keep trying. I would try and say like we've done it for this month, but at a point, it comes to a point where we can't collect that money anymore. We have to write that off as bad debt. It's non-collectible. But people hold on to that with like thinking that they've got money in their AR and it makes them feel really good instead of just being like, rip the Band-Aid off, get that debt off of there. You have some accounts that are like $10. Like just write that off, clean up your account, stop wasting your time, move on. It's a sad day, but learn from that. And I really do believe when you have to write off, 40 grand, you never let it happen again. Cause that day's a sad day.
Yeah. And so when you're saying write off, you're just saying count it as a loss. To the business.
Exactly. So you zero out the account, you'll write off bad debt write-off. It will zero the account so it no longer runs on all your AR reports. The account zero, or if you send it to collection, it goes zeroed out so you can see that the account zero. That way the ledger's correct, but that then becomes a bad debt write-off.
And I do believe...
Is this something that we can... Go ahead, Ryan.
I was just going to say, I dealt with this just a little bit in my prior life, and I do believe that every state has different laws and regulations around how many times you have to make the patient aware before you send them to collections.
Correct.
Like there's a process you have to take before you send them.
Correct. And collection agencies love to talk to you guys. They want to get into dental offices. So if you call them up, they'll be able to tell you the state laws of what needs to happen before you can send them over to the collection agency. That will help you guys in like just researching that. And then you guys need to make sure it's documented in there. So you guys have the documentation that's gone that far. I'm not super crazy about collection agencies. They take about 50% anyway off of the top. So at that point, I just call the patient and try and strike a deal and be like, look, we're going to send you to collections, pay the 50%. We're going to write off 50%. We're going to call it good and not see you again. So it just makes it just fixes all of that. So
that makes sense.
Okay. What's your other super fast question?
I can't. That's it. That's all I got. I'm walking towards the mower.
That's all you got. You can't get kicked out of dental school. So we will do another billing one. Absolutely. I know billing's a hot topic. So Friend and Ryan, thank you guys so much for being on the podcast with me and making me dive into this and explain it on a level that hopefully more people can understand. So thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much for the time.
Yes, of course. Awesome. All right, go get to class. Don't get kicked out. And Dental A Team listeners, thank you guys for listening. And we'll catch you guys next time on the Dental A Team podcast. that wraps it up for another episode of the Dental A Team podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.